Science Explorers. This is your lead scientist, Miss Shirley. Today's lesson is how we can change ice, change rock. In today's lesson, you'll be exploring, understanding the different kinds of landforms. You're going to identify landforms as a natural landform or a man-made landform. We're going to watch a weathering of rocks balloon experiment video. And in it, it will explore and simulate how frozen water can break rocks. In the experiment, students fill a small balloon with water in one container and then cover it with quick-setting plaster to simulate a rock. And when the container is frozen, the water in the balloon should expand and crack the plaster, which is supposed to represent the rock. And also, we're reviewing how Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota. It has 4 United States presidents carved in it. And those changes to the rock happen quickly. In our last lesson, we explored Mount Rushmore. Now, Mount Rushmore is a monument. It is a giant sculpture that people carved into the mountain rock, and the carving shows the faces of the 4 United States presidents. They are George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. The sculpture was completed in 1941. It took a team of many people about 14 years to carve. Now, let's introduce some words we need to learn for this lesson. Again, mountain is the highest landform on the surface of the earth. It is usually found to be conical in shape, which means cone-shaped, with steep sides and pointed tip called a peak. Hills are lower than mountains, but are higher than their surrounding areas. Valleys are low-lying areas between 2 mountains or hills. A plateau is a flat-top highland with steep sides. They are basically areas of high flatland. Plains are areas of flatland. Island is a piece of land surrounded by water on all sides. And deserts are large, dry, and hot areas of land which receive little or no rainfall throughout the year. And deserts are covered with sand. Okay, Science Explorers, we're going to learn more about reviewing landforms. And also, we're going to learn how ice changes rock. And we'll be investigating and exploring questions about them. So let's watch this video to learn more about landforms.
Look outside your window for a sec, and you'll probably see some buildings and streets, maybe telephone poles, hopefully some trees in there too. A lot of the world that we live in has been shaped by people, and hey, no complaints because I'm plenty comfortable right here. But people aren't the only ones moving things around and shaping our world. Wind, rain, and other elements do it all the time, making shapes out of the earth we call landforms. So what are some kinds of landforms, and how are they made? First, remember that the Earth is made of several spheres, including the hydrosphere, biosphere, atmosphere, and geosphere. The solid part of the Earth, or geosphere, may look pretty stable, but it's always changing. Weathering and erosion by wind and water are constantly reshaping what our planet's surface looks like, and even if it takes so long that we don't usually notice it, it's happening. Let's check out our map to explore what kinds of landforms there are around the world. Mountains are probably some of the most well-known landforms. Basically, they're just really big hills, with steep sides that stretch way above the surface of the Earth. Many mountains are formed when large plates, or pieces of the Earth's surface, collide and are forced upwards. The low spaces in between, we call those valleys. But if mountains don't pique your interest, how about plateaus? Plateaus are also tall landforms, but unlike mountains, which tend to have the pointy tops we know as peaks, plateaus have flat tops. Plateaus come in lots of sizes. If they're medium-sized, for example, they're called mesas, which is the Spanish word for table, which is highly appropriate since plateaus kind of look flat and long, like tables. And if they're smallish, they're called buttes. No matter what they're called or what size they are, plateaus can form in lots of different ways. Sometimes they're caused by the erosion or wearing away of mountains, like by water or really big pieces of ice. Other plateaus are made by magma, which is really hot, melted liquid earth below the surface. When magma swells up below the surface but can't break through, it can push up a flat chunk of land, leaving that table-like formation behind. And speaking of magma, let's go to the Pacific Ocean on our map for a good look at the most explosive landforms. Volcanoes. These landforms are found where the surface of the Earth is relatively thin. When magma breaks through the surface or erupts, that hot liquid rock gets a new name, lava, and a new volcano is born. Hot stuff coming through. Hot is definitely a good term to describe another kind of landform. Deserts. Deserts are landforms that lose more water to air than they get through rain, snow, or other kinds of moisture. The world's largest desert is the Sahara in northern Africa, where daytime temperatures can climb to a sweltering 55 degrees Celsius. Just a wee bit out of my personal comfort zone. But then again, so are the cold temperatures in Antarctica, which is actually considered to be a desert too. Penguins in the desert. Who knew it, right? Time to set sail for two more kinds of landforms, islands and deltas. You'll find deltas at the mouth or end of rivers where they meet the ocean. Deltas are formed when dirt and other debris that are washed down the river accumulate or build up to form a piece of land. Islands, on the other hand, can form any number of ways. They might come from the cooled lava of underwater volcanoes or from a whole lot of dirt, sand, and pieces of coral building up due to ocean currents. Islands can even form by breaking off from a larger piece of land, so they can form in lots of ways, but as long as it's surrounded on all sides by water, it's an island. In our travels today, we took a look at lots of different kinds of landforms, which are natural features of the Earth's surface. Landforms can stretch high above the Earth's surface, like mountains, plateaus, or mesas, be created in or by water, like deltas and islands, or even be dry, like deserts. So remember these things the next time you step outside. Underneath and beyond and all around the things that people have made, there are landforms, millions of years in the making.
Okay, science explorers, let's review what we just learned about different types of landforms. The different major landforms are mountains, hills, valleys, plateaus, plains, and deserts. A mountain is the highest landform on the surface of the Earth. It's usually found to be conical in shape, which means cone-shaped, with a steep sides and pointed tip called a peak. Hills are lower than mountains, but are higher than their surrounding areas. Valleys are low-lying areas between two mountains or hills. A plateau is a flat-top highland with steep sides. Since it looks like a table, it's also called a tableland. They are basically areas of high, flat land. And plains, as you are all familiar with, are areas of flat land. And an island is a piece of land surrounded by water on all sides. And a desert are large, dry, and hot areas of land which receive little or no rainfall throughout the year. The vegetation is scanty, which means it's scarce, it's little, due to the shortage of water, and deserts are covered with sand. Now, describe the landform that you've seen or visited in or around New York City, and can you identify if the landform is natural or man-made? Think, 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 science explorers. Write your response. In summary, we already learned some facts about Mount Rushmore. It's in South Dakota, and it has 4 United States presidents carved into it. Those changes to the rock happen quickly. Mount Rushmore is a monument. It is a giant sculpture that people carved into the mountain rock. The carving shows the faces of 4 United States presidents. They are George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. The sculpture was completed in 1941. It took a team of many people about 14 years to carve. So what did you enjoy learning about Mount Rushmore? Think, 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 science explorers. Write your response. Now, for additional information, we are going to watch this Weathering of Rocks balloon video to explore and simulate how frozen water can break rock. And you're going to fill a small balloon with water in one container and then cover it with a quick setting plaster to simulate a rock. When the container is frozen, the water in the balloon should expand and crack the plaster. Explain what you observed in the experiment. So, what did you see? What did you observe in the experiment? Think, science explorers. Write your response. And to summarize, water is the main cause of weathering, either as rain or ice. Rainwater can easily enter cracks in rocks and or sidewalks. If this happens during cold months, the water may freeze and expand in the crack. Working as a wedge, the ice splits the rock. Wind can also cause weathering. Over long periods of time, wind can wear away rock and carry tiny pieces of rock to new places. This can create amazing landscapes, such as rocks that look like mushrooms. Sometimes living things can cause weathering. Plant roots can wedge their way in between small cracks in rocks. As the plant grows, the roots increase the size of the crack little by little. Eventually, pieces of the rock break off and get carried away by wind or water. So, what are some ways that rock can be eroded? Think, science explorers. Write your response. Okay, what did we think of today's lesson? Okay, science explorers, today we talked about different types of landforms and also how ice can change rock. Until next time, ciao for now.